And we're on. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another episode of THRIVEcast, the show where we talk to IT professionals of all sorts and shapes and sizes and ages and everything else and find out what it is that made them tick, what made them successful, and overall, what makes them happy about being in the technology world. My name is DJ Eshelman. I'm your host. My co-host, Jeff, is unfortunately a little under the weather today, so we wish him well and wish him a good and safe recovery. And we'll hope to have him back on next week. I'll talk to you more about what's coming up soon. But today, I want to introduce to you my friend Jeremy Moskowitz, who is joining us live today. Hey, Jeremy, how's it going?
This your setup back there. Come on, look at that thing. Guitars, books that are lit up, snowboard.
Rough, man.
Looks like you're having a pretty great life.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. You can kind of behind the scenes, you can kind of tell it's like a stuck on like brick panel thing. It's kind of awesome, but yeah.
Looks great.
Makes it nice. So Jeremy is one of those multi-talented individuals that is most well known for not only his books, but also being the founder of the company Policy Pack and a great leader within that. This whole structure, we'll be talking a lot about that. But also, a whole litany of other accolades, from Microsoft, multi-year MVP, established leader in some of the what are we calling it now? Endpoint management, or
yeah. That's what the kids are calling it nowadays.
Yeah, we used to call it MDM or things like that. But yeah, great to have you on, Jeremy. If you have any questions for Jeremy as we're going along, feel free to make a comment. Keep in mind there's a little bit of a delay, but so if you give us some context about what we're talking about, and we'll feed it in. But yeah,
that's great. Cool. Thanks again for having me on. This is super cool. I'm honored to be one of your guests. This is really great.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. So I'm glad we finally arranged to do this. It's always a fun thing with logistics with all these kind of things, but it's great to get.
Hey, we're IT professionals. We make it work.
Yeah, we make it work. Exactly. Actually, I'm finding that it's actually been in some kind of ways easier to get people's attention for this because we're all kind of working from home more often now. It's easier to do things like this. So,
yeah, there's less. Well, I mean, if you exclude family members knocking on doors and so on, I think it's good that people can get heads down, get into a project, kind of rip it apart. If Teams and Slack notwithstanding, it does give you a wide burst of time to try to uncover new nuggets of things. I was working on an EUC product the other day, trying to integrate it with Policy Pack, and I needed 4 hours to do it. And I was like, wait a minute, it's quiet and I'm uninterrupted, and this is great. But yeah, I think a lot of people are having that sort of renaissance. On the other hand, though, you could also argue that not everybody's built for the home life, right? And I think that that's an important characteristic to know about yourself. Some people just they thrive in an environment where there is a coffee or water cooler and the activity protons and neutrons in an office space. You get to know new people. I get that. I think that's a perfectly valid way to be. And I think that people shouldn't feel ashamed or on the wrong side of it if they're like, man, I hate this work from home thing. It's not for me. I think that's a totally reasonable place to be too.
I agree completely. Yeah, it's much like personality types. In fact, this Monday, we actually did a mentoring session. And that's one of the things that I ask people when they're kind of trying to figure out what's ideal for them. That's a criteria. I mean, it really is. How you work is just as important as the work you're doing. So
I think there's some litmus tests you can sort of put on yourself or have as somebody who hires a lot of people, we do go people through some litmus tests to figure out. But, just a simple one is do you get more energy alone, or do you get more energy from other people? Have you done it before? And that could be for a 3-month thing. Maybe your spouse hurt their arm or something and you needed to treat them for a couple of months, and that became your way to do it. And so you had a little walk before you run before committing to it full time.
Yeah.
So there are some indications of are you going to be successful in a work from home environment or not?
Yeah, absolutely. So good stuff. Hey, take a moment if you would. Oops, that's the wrong thing. I was going to say, if you want to get subscribed to the channel, I know a lot of people are viewing now, not only on YouTube, but other platforms as well. YouTube is kind of our primary. So if you want to get subscribed to that, just go to thrive-it.com/subme. It'll get you subscribed. You can hit the bell, get notified. It's kind of cool. We even have somebody watching on Twitch today, which I think is awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can play your Nintendo 64 and talk about IT pros.
Right?
Badass. Now we're talking.
Yeah. So welcome to you. Feel free to say hi in the chat. We'll try and get you on the screen and everything like that. It's going to be great stuff. So let's get going. So Jeremy, tell us a little bit about like where you're from originally, you know, and kind of your early life.
Oh gosh. Well, in the beginning, I mean, I think it really starts, around, for me, computers were like in the 4th grade. There was a Commodore PET in the room, and I just like love the in graphics that you could use on Commodore 64 PET and the VIC-20, where you could like put your own characters together. And I was making little maze games and little rocket ships that would fly across. And then I was like, I'm going to go into computer science. I love mashing buttons, and I'd be in the elevator and push every freaking button. Like that was my thing. And so I went into computer science. So I have a computer science degree from the University of Delaware that you can I think you can see behind me somewhere. And I'm terrible at programming. Wait, that's the dirty little secret. Don't tell anybody. Okay, don't tell anybody. I have a computer science degree. Don't let me program, okay? So like I tried to put the square peg in the round hole because like I knew I loved computers. I knew I wanted to work at them, and programming was the only thing when I went to college that had anything to interface with computers. Yes. So that was, but I always, here's the secret though. All through high school and college, I always had work in the computer field. I worked in a computer repair shop. I worked for a religious organization. I then worked in high school for Pan Am World Airways. That doesn't even exist anymore. And then all through college, I had work on campus and with affiliated things at the university. And it just started me down the road of like thinking big thoughts about lots of computers. And that's like, I just started thinking, I just started getting into that, so and that's where I landed. And then after I graduated college, I became one of the first MCSEs in the world. I was just like, I was hearing these ads like, become Microsoft certified, earn $80 billion a year, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I think I could do that. And I crushed it in like you have to pass 6 exams. And I did it in like the first 6 or 8 months that they were available. And so I always have the lowest MCSE number in the room. Yeah. Which is good. So long story short is like I got started there and I stopped programming. I just like wasn't a programmer, never wanted to be a programmer. And all I wanted to think about was how to manage the snot out of thousands and thousands of computers. Now at the time, there's a couple ways to do that. There was Novell NetWare, there was OS2, and then there was this thing, I don't know if you heard of it, it's called NT4. Okay. And like these things were up and coming over the long haul. These things were coming around the bend. And I kept learning these things. And then it sort of became untenable. And how do you run around from machine to machine in order to do stuff? Gosh, that's really a pain in the neck. Gosh, if only there's there is SMS 1.0. So I'm certified at SMS 1.0, which is bonkers. Yeah. And then, Active Directory came along. And I realized that everybody was focused around how to get from NT4 to Active Directory. And I was like, boring, don't care, couldn't care less. What I care about is what are you going to do with Active Directory once you get there? And I was like, that's group policy. Like the big win around Active Directory is to manage the snot out of 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 machines and do it the right way. And if you can learn how to disassemble that and do it the right way, oh man, the world's your oyster. And so that's what I did. I transitioned from being like an SMS expert into a group policy expert. And that's where I spent the majority of my career.
Cool. So I'm kind of curious, like you recognize that, programming, that sort of thing really wasn't your bag. But what do you think was the kind of caused you to realize that? What was that kind of moment for you?
Oh, I know that. I was living in the debugger. Right? I think, again, what the irony is, I now own and run a software company, but I don't program. Okay. Nice. I have these incredible programmers that are like, they're like Rembrandts and Picassos. they know exactly what the structures are going to be, and they're going to do the thing, and they do the writing, and they just know how to do a great job. I don't think they spend their life in the debugger. Maybe they spend some time, but I knew for me, it was like, I'm stepping through every line, waiting for n+1 to be 7. And I'm just like, where is this freaking bug? And I didn't like that. I just like knew that wasn't going to be my bag. And I had already had all this work all through college, working on university systems and working in museum systems and doing big thinking thoughts around lots and lots of computers. And I was like, I'm going to have to make the change.
Yeah, well, and that's really key. And people think they need to kind of force it in, and kind of, the only way to succeed is to just do more.
Plow through.
Like.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, I think what you're heading toward is like, there's the right person for the right job at the right time. All right.
Absolutely.
Like by way of example, I mean, there's still people who need to repair, old and crusty Nokia cell phones. There's probably like 2 guys, or a typewriter repair guy. There's probably like 3 guys in the country that still repair typewriters. If that's what you want to do, that's great. And you can have a really awesome business around that. Okay. There's no downside to that. In fact, I think that the 3 typewriter repair guys probably have more typewriters to fix than they know what to do with, and probably make a pretty good living. There's actually not a downside there. Then there's the meaty middle, right? There's like, pretty much everybody's doing this thing, and maybe I can get into that. That could actually be conceivably harder, because then like you have all these people who are trying to ostensibly tackle similar problems, and you're competing for rates and so on. Then there's ludicrous bleeding edge stuff where some people are willing to pay top dollar for a very certain skill set that might be unproven. You have these 3 things. That's why most people tend to fit into the meaty middle of things. But there's no one way to slice it. I would say that as somebody who's, launched and grown a business, you have to have a little bit of a combination of all things, but really focus on one to be the best you're going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the people have heard me talk about these various zones we work in. You have things, incompetence, the things you do that, it's like, why am I doing this? I'm not even remotely interested or good at this. Zone of competence, stuff that you're good enough at. This is like, I can paint the walls in my house. Am I the best at it? No. Do I enjoy doing it? Well, sometimes. And then you have things that are like zone of excellence kind of stuff that you're like, yeah, I'm good at this. I'm good. I can do this well. But if you ignore that zone of genius, that like one thing, it makes you just uniquely you. And, there's elements of what I'm hearing in what you're saying is that, look, I know how to do this stuff. There's a why behind it that I'm honing in on and saying, this is, if I can, hone in on that and have other people doing those other areas, then we all move forward.
Well, for me, I did get a little lucky, right? So like when I saw group policy the first time, I sort of liken it to like the an apocryphal story of where like a little kid picks up a violin and just knows how to play, right? And so I wasn't an expert right away. I wasn't, I wasn't an MVP the first day I started looking at it, but I got what they were laying down in a way that I don't think a lot of other people did back at the time. And so that enabled me to be like, I fell in love with it, like super hard and super deep. So much so that like, I've written some books on it, and like, it's like launched my career, and like, I've written a bunch of articles, and my software hooks into that. And also MDM, like, I have an affinity for this thing, which is great. I call group policy and desktop management in general my girlfriend, right? Because like I never want to stop having date night with her. I have my wife. Don't get me wrong; that's a different story. Right. And they get along. My wife and my girlfriend get along really well. But the point is that like I call group policy and desktop management at large my girlfriend, because it enables me to like. I really enjoy doing it. And like, that's great, because like, it means it never gets tiring. And we always have a good time.
And that's, and I think sometimes we miss that too. Like there's an element of how you feel about what you do, and if you genuinely just like, I'm not saying you get up every single morning and it's like, gosh, I can't wait to do some MDM today. That's not necessarily what it is, but if you are feeling like the time just passes by and it's effortless to do that sort of thing, that's a good indication that you're operating in the right space.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, running a company is different than owning a technology space, right? Like to like to be a group policy expert, or to be like, I'll make it up, a SQL expert, something I don't care anything about, to be like a SQL badass, like whatever, that's one skill set. And then like, running a whole organization where you've got a product, you've got hundreds of customers with millions of deployed seats and licenses and so on. That's a whole different thing. The point, however, what I would agree with you generally is that like, yeah, you should try, I don't wake up on the right side of the bed every morning, but you should try to wake up on the right side of the bed most mornings, and then you're probably in the right zone. I hardly look up at the clock and think to myself, man, this day never ends. Like I almost never feel that way. I'm always like, oh my God, where'd the time go? I have so much more to do. I have a very sophisticated chart system of how to do my stuff, and it's on this piece of paper right here on this clipboard. Very sophisticated, yep. And this tells me what I'm supposed to do for the week, and who I'm keeping track of, and what important things I should be top of mind. So when I talk to those people on my team, I think about those things. The point is that I never, ever run out of stuff to do, which keeps it always really engaging and always really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's an element of, I think you're like me, like keeping things actually written down and nearby. I mean, like I use an actual planner.
Yeah, there you go. And I rewrite the sheet every week. So I literally take a new piece of paper and I look at the old one. I look at the new one. I know this is super low tech and like really like Stone Age stuff, but it really works. The actual act of writing something down, it's like not important anymore. That was important 3 weeks ago. That is, no, that's gone. And so now, you're able to actually add and also remove stuff very easily by actually starting the process of like, gonna do the thing with, no, I don't want to do that anymore. That's ridiculous. Right. And so anyway, that's my very high tech system.
No, I love it. And actually, for me, it actually does some key things about, okay, what can I delegate? What kind of things am I doing that, it's not really, not benefiting anyone for me to be the one doing this. I could be doing other things. I might be relatively interested in them, but, if I'm having to write it every single week because, it just keeps not getting done, gosh, maybe I need to either delegate that or destroy it, just like not bother.
Yeah. Well, it actually goes both ways, right? So a lot of these things that are on the paper are delegated, but then there's also the idea where if it isn't getting done, I'll try to collaborate first. And other times it's like, let me take that off your plate so you can focus on the thing you want to do. That's okay too. Sometimes it's said that the CEO of a company's job, the entire job is to find the hardest problem of the day and crush it, whatever that is. And that could be anything. It could be a human resources problem. It could be customer concern. It could be anything. But not everything is delegatable. So you sort of have to know what things and tweak it right out of the gate, right? You've assigned it, and then 2 weeks go by, it's not there. It's like, let me take that off your plate. I'll take a swipe at it and get back to you. Maybe it's shooting a video, maybe it's testing out some piece of software, whatever it is. So you have, in the role that I've got at PolicyPack as founder and CTO, I have to be very flexible about both assigning things and also occasionally pitching in to all areas of the business as needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you're just joining us, we are talking to Jeremy Moskowitz, founder of PolicyPack Software, and having all sorts of fun with, we're off the rails, and I love it.
Off the rails
all sorts of things, and it's just awesome how to talk productivity and purpose and all those kind of things. If you have any questions or anything like that, just put it in the chat, and hopefully we see it. I think there's we're doing multiple streams today, so it's a little bit of a different show we're trying out here. So if you have a comment, just throw it up there, and we'll see if we see it. We can put it on screen.
I am your beta tester. Beta tester. That's how I roll.
It worked pretty well last time in the alpha stage, and so we'll see how it is in the beta stage. So.
Great, super duper.
So tell us a little bit about. Well, let's start with. Were the books first, or was PolicyPack first?
No, the arc of the story. To continue down the arc of that, which is, I think I stopped with like, hey, I became an MCSE. Then I moved out to on the West Coast for a while, and I became an SCCM consultant, really SMS consultant. And I was doing that for a while. And the reason why is that the consulting company I was working with, which doesn't really exist in the current form anymore, it used to be called Software Spectrum. When Microsoft ran out of hands, they called the guys from Software Spectrum. Okay. Yeah. So we were the second string baseball players to the Microsoft, field engineers. And we'd work side by side, and we would come up with design plans and architecture plans and educate the customer and do all sorts of stuff like that. and everybody had to know core stuff. You had to be like an NT guru kind of thing, and hence my license plate, NT guru.
Yep.
Right there you go,
Yep.
for my Arizona license plate. So you had to become an NT guru, but then after that, you had to differentiate between email and SMS. And I thought to myself, when email catches fire, the world comes to an end, and my pager, not cell phone at the time, my pager would be going off like crazy. If SMS stops working, things go faster. So I think I'll go with that one. So because, who cares? Nobody cares if SMS breaks. It's like, it just doesn't matter. So I went into SMS as my differentiator for a while, and I was doing consulting with Software Spectrum for a long time. And then I decided to start writing. I was doing a project for this company around ghosting. The disk imaging stuff. And this was right before NT4O was being created, and we were doing 95, and I was learning about SIDS and SID history and so on. And I ended up, and there you go. This is my first, this big plaque behind me. That's the first article I ever wrote. And all I did was, I swear I'm not making this up. I swear I'm not making this up. I wrote a 2-part article about how to do disk imaging and SIDS. And then the second part is like what to do about it. So 2 different parts. And I blasted I created a little synopsis, okay, about for part 1 and part 2. And I blasted it to every NT style magazine back in the day. So that was like, Windows NT Mag and Back Office and what was Redmond and so on. And 2 magazines bought it. One bought part 1 and one bought part 2 right out of the gate. My first time out. Okay. I'd never written anything professionally before. I just thought this will make an interesting story for somebody to actually read. And bang, I hit it first time. Nice. So then the guy who became my publisher for my editor for that magazine, he invited me to, he's like, hey, I got a book deal to write how to do Server 2000 in 24 hours. Do you want to take half a book? So what does 24 hours mean? It's 24 one-hour chapters, okay? And then there's the first book, the red one over there. Teach Yourself Windows Server 2000 in 24 hours. Okay. So because I wrote the article, that guy who was my editor, he got this book deal and he offered me half a book. And now my name's on a cover of something, which is like a huge deal, okay? And then that became the impetus for me to start putting my name into the speaking circuit. And I started doing the, NT magazines, the IT Pro, the SANS. I did there was a lot of circuits back then. I know this is going to shock everybody, but there was this thing called YouTube back then. That wasn't really a thing. Recording stuff, that wasn't really a thing. So you sort of had to like go around, and I know this is crazy, talk to people and explain your stuff. So then I got my big break. So far things are going pretty well, but then like I actually had a real official big break, which is I put my name in for this for a conference for the NT Magazine conference, and they were like, nope, sorry, you're all full. We're all full. First of all, we never heard of you. Second of all, we're all full up, and sorry, Charlie, go try again next year. And then I get the call back, hey, somebody dropped out. Do you want their slot? And I'm like, hell to the yes. Yeah. Now I'm on a big stage in the real time. Okay. But here's the rub. I had to follow the venerable, the one, the only Mark Manassi.
Okay.
Do you know him, Mark Manassi?
Not personally, but yeah.
Okay. Well, he's like one of the greatest speakers in IT Pro history of all time. He's got the big books. He's got the beautiful golden throated voice. He's consummate professional.
Yeah.
He's amazing. And I got to follow him. And this is my first time out at bat, right? So I call him and I'm like, so it looks like our topics are kind of similar. Can we coordinate to figure out so that we don't butt heads? And he goes, Moskowitz, listen, don't worry about it. We'll do the thing. It'll be great. I'll do my thing. You do your thing. Even if they hear the same thing twice, they're going to love it. Don't worry about it. And I was like, great. So I do my thing. And he sees me talk and he says, Moskowitz, that was great. I've got a book series coming out and you love this group policy thing. I want you to be the anchor book in the book series. Nice. So it'll be the Mark Manassi IT professional book series, and you'll write the first book in the book series. And I was like, Yes. That was like,
Right?
it was a huge thing for me. So now I've got my own book at that point with my own name on it. And this is the 6th edition of that thing. This is the big guy. Yeah, it's only 1,000 pages. No problem. Anybody could get through this in just a little while. I've had people tell me they go through it on an airplane flight. That's fine. Maybe front and back. It's totally fine. And then Mark and another guy, Bill, became my mentors. I was watching them speaking and learning from them and honing my craft and getting my skill set down to where I needed it to be. And can't do it alone. Like I said, I actually had 2 real mentors that I tapped and asked them, will you be my mentors and help me out? And they were like, that's great. And I'm still in great touch with both of them. I love them both very dearly and very grateful for their tutelage. And but I had to strike out and make my own way too. And long story short is like that was it. And then from that point, I started doing a lot of a couple more books, and then my deep dive group policy training classes, which I still do to this day.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, that was a lot. Hope that was all digestible.
Well, and I love that you bring up the mentoring thing because I don't know why this is a thing, but I think a lot of times people get confused about that pathway. They see like you were born and then writing books and doing all these things. They don't see that in between thing. And more often than not, there's a mentor in there somewhere. There's that Yoda that's in there somewhere.
Yeah, you gotta find somebody who you can you permit to give you the hard advice you don't want to hear. Okay. Absolutely. You can't be great at everything. And again, for me, this mentoring was around my speaking and training and being on main stages at like things like Ignite and Tech Ed and things that are important. And I would watch the videos, I critique them, and we'd watch them together, and we'd figure it out and get there are lots. I look at these things, and sometimes I'm like, that was a great one, and then other times I'm like, oh, I could have done better. And the point is that these guys have been so great because they'll tell me the kinds of things that I need to hear to make my craft better. So said another way, I think about IT in general and speaking specifically as my crafts, and I wouldn't have done that if I didn't have a mentor who actually put it to me in those terms.
Yeah, that's good. Actually, it's really good because that's something that a lot of times people miss too. It's not. Sometimes you just need to focus on a thing, and make that like really truly your focus. Which was, I mean, that's kind of my journey in 2020 has been that of saying, I'm going to set aside a lot of other things and really focus on this. And so, investing heavily in, how to learn how to do. Write a book.
Well, that's the difference between a job and a craft, right? A job is something you go to, it's 9 to 5. And then when it's over, man, you check out, and that's fine. I don't begrudge anybody with a job. The world is done by dedicated people who do a great job.
Yeah.
A craft is something completely different. Okay. Yeah. A craft is something that you're working on, honing the skill, shaving down the rough edges, continual improvement until you master the snot out of that thing, whatever that thing is. There's no wrong way. Okay. And I'll give you an example. Okay. When I was working at this company in Arizona as a consultant, I had to go down to the shop floor. They built submarines there. Okay. And I went down to the shop floor and I saw this guy with a bakery rack full of parts, like for a submarine. I don't know, some kind of widget or whatever. Right. I swear this was this guy's job. You take a part off the bakery rack, you take a toothbrush, and then he would clean the inside of the part and really clean the snot out of it. He'd do a really good job. Really, this guy did a great job. And he put it on the other bakery rack. And I'd watch him take another one off the rack, and he would do this for I don't know how many hours.
Right.
And then when he was done for the day, I bet that guy slept like a baby and never had to worry about it. And he was done.
You can't bring that home with you.
No. And in fact, I envy that guy into some extent. Yep. That guy has a great job, and I'm sure he did a fabulous job, and there's nothing wrong with that kind of thing as a job. On the other hand, a craft is something completely different, where it's like, you can start off with carpentry. I can't do carpentry, so I can use that as an example. You take a first slice at it, and you try to make a head or sort of whatever, and it looks like an elephant or whatever. And then you keep hacking, you keep working away at it until you hone your craft, until by the time it's over, you've got this skill set in a way that very few people do. And it's the kind of, it's the kind of thing where it's like, but you love it. You don't care. The hours whittle by, if you'll pardon the pun. They'll just keep on. They'll just keep on going, because it doesn't matter, because your craft gives you the energy you need to keep going. And so for me, like, not just group policy, but also business in general and building software without programming, are these crafty things that I'm kind of always heading toward, because like I love it and I don't want to spend less hours. I want to spend more time in it. Not, of course, at shying away from my family and so on. But the point is like, there should be an correct end to everything. But the point is that finding your zone and continuous improvement is part of my DNA. And if anybody's going to try to be an independent person in business or IT, whatever, finding that thing is, I think, a really critical step.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually ran a mastermind group for a group of artists, actually, just musicians, that sort of thing. As obviously, I have some background in that. But one of the things that I bring up to them is it's okay to treat your job as if it is they're kind of your patron. Like you're being your own patron. You're working for a time while you're honing a craft to do something else, either down the road or just to do it for fun, and it's good to do that. But also the other thing I'm finding a lot of, and I think you were kind of touching on this too, is that there's an element of when you work on a craft that's related to what you do for your job, sometimes your job can be like very elevated as a result, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, well, but I think it takes a certain kind of discipline, and like anything else, if you wanted to, walk the Andes Mountains and get up to Kilimanjaro, or get up to whatever the mountains are, I'm not that guy. I don't have the dedication and craftsmanship in order to like do the walk, do the trot, do the climb, do the that's not my bag. And I shouldn't even attempt it, because like I can't. I would never be able to see through that kind of thing. But I feel like I have limitless gas in the tank for the stuff that I'm psyched about.
That's a great point. Yeah. Awesome. Well, walk us through a little bit more about, let's see, where were we in the story? We're talking through being in Arizona and now you're writing books.
Writing books. And then Mark saw me, said, do you want to write a book in my series? I wrote the book, and then I was working as a consultant. I moved back to the East Coast. I was working as a consultant, and then a couple of things happened. I was doing a lot of real-time, heavy-hitting speaking, and which was really great. People were starting to ask me, Jeremy, this is group policy is your topic. It's really hot commodity. Do you want to come out and teach us? And I was like, yeah, I do. I think I do. And so I left my job. I bought an expensive laptop, an expensive projector, and hoped like crazy that things would pay off. And it was hard for a while to get going. I did classes with 3 and 4 people in it for a really long time.
Yeah.
And then, then I started building a email list of people and giving them tip of the week, and sort of watching what my mentors were doing and doing a little bit of that, and tagging on a little bit there, making friends in the industry, asking them if they would do a little pitching for me here and there. And by the time I turned around, my classes were 20 and 30 people. So that was really great. And I did that for a really long time. And I still do it. Like I said, if this COVID thing, I don't know if you heard about this COVID thing, it's everywhere.
Yeah,
it's everywhere. So you got to be careful, because you just like, you go out. Anyway, it's crazy pants. Anyway, long story short is that I would be traveling and doing my group policy training class, maybe 3 or 4 times a year in different hotels, and you set up shop there and have various people fly in. But I can't. So, I've recorded it. I have it online for people. If anybody's interested in this topic by accident, you just go to, gpanswers.com/training. You can find the recorded, pay version there. But the point is that I did that for a really long time until something interesting happened. Okay. I was at Tech Ed one year, and I'm doing a talk in front of I don't know how many people, a lot. And I'm like, and that's why group policy is great, period. It's like the end of the talk. Any questions? Anybody got any questions? And like one guy in the back's like, yeah, I got a question. I was like, okay, you in the back. He goes, group policy is so great. Why does it suck so much for like things like Adobe Acrobat Reader or Firefox or Flash or Java and stuff? And I'm like, I'm going to build that.
Right.
Like, I just knew.
The lights just came on.
It was like, there was no, now since that point I'm going to talk, this has been doing this a long time. I've read a million books about entrepreneurship and building businesses. And like, I had to hone this craft in a wholly unique way. But they basically say like, you shouldn't start a business unless you are the only freaking human alive that could do that thing. Whatever that thing is, you could be the best car detailer guy ever. Okay. And you shouldn't do it unless you're the best. You think you've cracked the nut in a way that nobody else can do it. Right. You could be a tennis pro if you got a special way to teach or whatever the thing is. And for me, it was like, wait a minute, hold on a second. I have a computer science degree. I know this group policy thing really well. Maybe we should join forces and do those things together. And I should build a software company. And like, that's exactly what I did. And so like, that was the impetus for this. It was managing the snot out of application settings for the first couple of years of the company. And we've since grown past that. We do a lot of amazing things around Windows 10 and least privilege management and UAC problems, tons of stuff. But the impetus of the company was, how do we manage the heck out of application settings? And I was like, I got to build that thing.
Well, and coming out of a need that was expressed.
Yeah. And that honestly is the don't tell anybody. That's the secret of Policy Pack, is finding all the things that Microsoft can't or won't do and putting them into a product that anybody can buy, and then making it an incredibly awesome experience all the way through end to end, from buying it to using it to getting it, supported. That's it. That's my big secret. Don't tell anybody. That's how I do it.
We're only streaming live to multiple different places.
Don't tell anybody that's how to build a successful software company. Yeah, but that really is it. I mean, or if your thing is Citrix, find a thing that Citrix doesn't do. Like if you think you've got a magic formula for how to do a thing, great. It isn't. I will say it's not as easy as like, I've got a PowerShell script and I'm going to sell it for $12. It doesn't really work that way. Okay, when you get to a certain point, you got to walk out of the it's on GitHub place to like, I'm going to service and support you in a fashion. We've got 4 support people. We've got, I don't know how many developers, something like 20 developers in QA people. We've got sales and marketing. I think we're a big organization now. We have around 35 people all said and done that work for us, not to mention graphic designers and video guys from time. I mean, it's a big operation at this point. The point is like, I had again, I'm looking back on like my original 1.0 self in this thing, thinking I'm going to make it self-service and people can just show us their license request keys and we can just, no, that's complete. I was way off the mark in that. It requires the reason these software companies have all these team members, that you need a big team in order to get the job done. You can't do it alone. And I couldn't do it without my amazing team.
No, it's true. It's like, there's no, and I'm realizing this as well, is that there's no real such thing as I'm going to be able to do it all. It's time doesn't work like that.
No, I mean, one of the great books in entrepreneurship is called the Mythical E-Month, something like that, by this guy Gerber. I'll never forget. It's one of the first business books I ever read, and his philosophy about business in general is: pretend you're a pie maker. Okay, and you make the best freaking pies ever, and you want to sell the best freaking pies ever. Think about all the things you would need in order to do to make and sell the best freaking pies ever. Well, you need somebody to like source ingredients and then like bake the pie and then make the pie and then ship the pie and then actually do receipts about the pie. And then you got to like market the pie. Like there's all these things you got to do. Okay, fine. So what you do is you build out an org chart for all the things you need to do, and you put your name in every box. Once your name is in every box for all the things you want to do, you then sell enough pies so you make enough money to then put people in all the boxes so you can stop doing all the things. Yep. That's exactly what I did. That is literally exactly what I did. The only
one note that we have as a company handbook, which is ironic, but it's the start, and that's what I do. I put my name in all these different things.
In all the boxes. And the only box I never put myself in, I never put myself in was programmer. I never put myself in that box. So I put myself in every other box. And now what's great is that we're a 35-person company, but I've done pretty much everybody's job at the company to some extent. Right. Which is great because now I know how to do a little bit of everything. But eventually I got myself now
it's vision.
Now it's say again.
Now it's a vision kind of thing.
Now we're cooking with gas. We have over 400 customers, more than 1 million deployed seats. We have 4 big products, 12 components. Like it's a scene, man. It's like a real thing.
Hey, let's real quick. Let's talk about what's going on. Literally tomorrow. Hopefully, people watching live will be able to register.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But yeah, go ahead and tell us more about this.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So this is we decided that working from home. If you think about it, you're kind of locked down. You think really? I mean, a lot of these. I live outside Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is literally on lockdown. And if you want to fly into Philly, you can't unless you show up with a certificate, basically that says you passed the COVID test. Like we're all in lockdown. We're in lockdown together. Mm-hmm. So is everybody else, and so are the end users, and so are we as IT professionals. And so I was just like, I want to do something for the community that has like a smidgen of policy pack, but mostly it's about experts crushing it with things that would be incredibly helpful for you. So we have people like Paula Januszewicz. I'm pretty sure I got her name right now, right? Paula J. She's from Sequire. We've got James Rankin, incredible big brain. Sammy Liho from security. Richard Hicks, Mr. VPN. We got Jen Sheeran doing WVD. Stephen Rose from Microsoft is our keynote. We're like, and Richard Campbell is my co-MC. So and I'm speaking too. So the idea is that this is a really deep dive technical conference. I have not even seen their speeches. I don't know what anybody's talking about. Right. So the point is I know what their titles are. I haven't seen their speeches, and they're just going to come in, crush it, and drop the mic and move on to the next topic. Love it. It's going to be awesome from people I just wanted to do something because I just think this is the right time to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like something worth several $100s and worth your time for sure.
Zero. It's zero. It's worth several $100s.
Yes.
It's zero. And also for payment to the speakers, they all have a stipend that they are going to be giving to charity of their choice, So it's basically a charity event. I'm not asking attendees to pay or do anything. If they want to, that's totally great. But that's it.
Yeah, love it. So you can go to policypack.com/lockdown to register for that.
That's right.
We'll be in the show notes as well, but make sure you get that. Now, if people register after the fact, are they going to be able to get any kind of replays or anything like that?
Yeah, we'll figure. We got to work it out, but yeah, we'll figure that out.
Yeah, good.
No downside. You might as well just do it.
Yeah. Absolutely love it. So yeah. So I mean, as far as it goes with Policy Pack, obviously it's just a fantastic resource for people that you should absolutely be talking to your management about. It just makes things a lot easier, and it's not heavy, right?
Yeah, it works.
I'll say about that. What I like about that is not like some big ominous database add-on based kind of thing. It's really smartly put together, so it's like you can tell it was made by people that have actually done this.
Well, it's let me see how fast we can install it. There's a double click to install the admin console, which hooks into the group policy editor, so you don't have another window to worry about. Just like policies, preferences, and Policy Pack. And then the endpoint, there's a little moving part called the client-side extension. Now, Microsoft already ships 39 client-side extensions. You already know them, like group policy preferences, shortcuts, and drive maps, and admin templates, and security settings. There's 39 in the box. We just add some more. There's no databases, as you said. There's no schema changes. There's no servers to buy or build. It's super easy to get it up and running. And by the time it's over, you're able to overcome and achieve a bunch of things you couldn't do. So like we talked about application settings before. Like another one is like pesky UAC problems from applications written in like 2006. Right? You double click it, and for the love of Pete, the damn thing doesn't want to open. What are you going to do? Give that guy local admin rights and run with the scissors? Terrible idea. So we can enable you to overcome UAC prompts and admin rights so that the guy who's working from home can can correctly download just the software he needs in a least privileged fashion and keep it updated, or run that old software, or get into the operating system where he couldn't normally get into to do his job, the least privileges possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it.
Yep.
So, I mean, as far as it goes, well, yeah, it's just easy, right? I just love about that. So definitely something, definitely want you to go to the event tomorrow, and then actually there's additional resources on your website on policypack.com that I think people should know about as well.
Yeah, thanks.
As far as getting that, so we'll make sure to make sure that link's in there too. There's a lot of things you can do to try it out, and like you said, it's really lightweight. It's not like it's going to be, super heavy. Try it at home.
What's great is that it also works on whatever your Windows system is. We work with it. So by way of example, you got Citrix? Check. You got Windows Virtual Desktop? Check. You got real desktops and laptops and VDI? Check, 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 check. Is it Windows? We run with it. That's it. Yeah. It's not complicated. You can deploy it any way you want, and you get this battalion of problems that are solved immediately.
And that's the nice thing about it, is that it's extensible. So new problems, new solutions. I love that. And so, and I think the thing I like about just in general, and this is speaking to obviously most of our audience works in the end user computing space and that sort of thing. And so just speaking to them, just being aware that the challenges you face, other people are facing those challenges. That's something where, it's not like there's not a solution to the problem just because it's difficult or just because it's annoying. There's always things out there that somebody has thought of or somebody has struggled with, and that, either by way of the community or by people like saying, okay, this is my superpower, I'm going to figure this out. Find those resources. Don't just assume that you have to be the one to figure it out. Make life fun.
Well, the upside of Googling, of course, is that you can find a bunch of answers. The downside of Googling is that you find a bunch of wrong answers. But what's also true is that this is just like a troubleshooting tip that just as you were talking about that, I was thinking, God, some of those things that have occurred to me over time is that error messages typically don't change over time. So for instance, if you hit like, I don't know, error 4,663, and somebody somewhere's like, that's a problem because of a file lock issue with my QuickBooks 92. I don't know. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. File lock issue with QuickBooks 92, which, by the way, I don't even think is a thing. I'm just making it up. That could be a file lock issue with another thing. Like that same error message can typically be transported over. So, finding a resource is good. Don't be afraid of using old resources that seem like they're red herrings. Sometimes you could actually leverage those as crowbars to get you into troubleshooting problem sets that you may not have thought of.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's just one of we could talk literally all day about all this kind of stuff, but I wanted to ask you one more question.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's the future? What's the next thing for Jeremy Moskowitz?
Well, I think it's a continuation of the story in a fashion that keeps up with the times. So PolicyPack, for years and still hooks into group policy excellently. It's our first-class citizen, but we also have an MDM edition. Hold on, what does that mean? You're competing with Intune? That's bananas. No, we don't compete with Intune. You remember that commercial from the early 90s? Like, we don't make the sweater, we make it warmer. We don't make the cooler, we make it cooler. Remember that commercial? Yeah, most people don't. Okay. That's our MDM edition. We hook into an MDM edition you already have. So for instance, a lot of people that get started with MDM like an Intune, and they're like, this doesn't work for me. I can't remove my control panel, and I can't do my password stuff, and I have no group policy preferences items, and I still have this UAC problem, and my browsers suck, and like my problems are still my problems. I just have a cloud way to do my management. Man, if only there was a way to do kick-ass management by using my MDM platform. If only there's a way. Well, there is. That's the whole point. So the PolicyPack series of stuff, we just let you pick the edition you want. You want to use group policy today? Great. MDM tomorrow? Great. You just exchange a license and you're off to the races. You got nothing? Use PolicyPack Cloud. So the point is that we have multiple editions to keep up with what people actually need to do, as opposed to trying to figure it out by themselves. So what's for us? We're gonna keep on solving incredible challenges, put it into Policy Pack, and let it work across all editions, the group policy version, MDM version, or our cloud version, which is great for MSPs, by the way.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say that seems like the more I've been thinking about this, that that's kind of an emerging, as more people are doing work from home and doing cloud managed systems, the more this is becoming kind of offloaded to, so in other words, it's not just internal IT helping it anymore and maintaining it. It's being done with a lot more MSPs and things like that. I'm wondering if there's been a growth in that market.
Yeah, I mean, our cloud edition is a hot commodity. I mean, people want to do group policy through the cloud, and how do you do it if you don't want to marry to a gigantic system like an MDM?
Right.
We solve that. We literally do group policy through the cloud, plus all the superpowers that we bring to the table too. So our cloud edition, if you are married to an MDM solution, that's fine. We can tack onto that and make that sweater warmer. And if you're still using group policy, which I anticipate most customers will until the heat death end of the universe, that's fine too as well. We can let you move from edition to edition with very low friction, so you can get dialed in exactly right. You got 1,000 on-prem machines. However, they're using VPN today. Some guys don't have VPN. No problem. We got you covered on all those scenarios. You just have to know, like, what things do you want to crush, and then we'll help you dial in the licensing part.
Love it. All right, y'all. We got one more question I'm going to ask Jeremy before we go, but there's a couple of things I want to do. Just the kind of the logistical pay the bill stuff. First of all, make sure you go register for this event tomorrow. Policypack.com/lockdown. It's going to be great stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. That actually helps us out a great deal. So if you go back and watch this after the fact, or if you're watching it after the fact right now, go ahead and click that subscribe button so you can get a notice of the next time that we're on. And finally, I want to announce that the two books that I've written, Be a Citrix Hero and Just Do This, A Simpler Way to Succeed in IT, the bundle that I have for that is expiring soon. So make sure you go grab that. That is thrive-it.com/book bundle to grab that before it expires at the end of the month. And so that is going to be a fantastic deal. Basically, it's a 2-for-1 kind of a deal. Actually, if you can look at my shelf there, if you're in the US, there are looks like about 8 or 9 copies of Dan Miller's 48 Days to the Work You Love that I'll be sending along with it as well. So it's actually 3 books for $48. So great deal for you. So get that before that expires at the end of the month. And yeah, we appreciate your support on that. So anyway, there's one final question, Jeremy, that I wanted to ask you. And it's because I'm looking at that top, well, on my screen, the left-hand corner, and I'm seeing a little Star Trek emblem up there. And I'm gotta know.
This guy right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So that is a Deep Space Nine communicator replica that I bought at the Las Vegas experience store. And yeah, so I got that there, and I just love it. I have my office filled with things that make me happy. So that's one. Up over there next to my MVP little trophy thing, I have a business card from Steve Jobs.
Nice.
Where he's hand signed something on the back. Over here, you can't. You can't see it. I have something signed from Wozniak, and then on another wall over here, something from Microsoft. So the point is, like, I like to surround myself with things that make me happy and make me feel like, it's not just about me and day to day. I like being inspired by great things that other great people have done. It makes me feel like, okay, like, just gives me good energy. So
yeah, love it. And that's kind of why I was wondering about that. It's like, it's kind of the same kind of thing around here. People can't always see, obviously I've got a very curated background here, but yeah, there's lots of other stuff like that all around here. It's just kind of, you got to inspire your space.
Yeah.
It's very important.
It's yours, man. Do what you want to do.
Yeah, that's true. Cool. Well, Jeremy, thanks so much for being with us today. We really appreciate your time and being so generous with that and all you're doing. And we definitely appreciate that. And
this is great. Thanks so much for having me on, and see everybody tomorrow at the policypack.com/lockdown event. And if you don't make it there, no problem. We'll figure out a way for you to get a replay. And thanks again for having me on. It's super great.
Awesome. Thanks a bunch. So everyone, I do appreciate your time today, and make sure you get subscribed to the YouTube channel so you don't miss that. Just thrive-it.com/subme. Or actually, we have some other methods that seems to go pretty well today. So we had people watching on Twitch. We had people watching on Periscope, on Twitter. I had people watching on Facebook. And so we're going to be working on all these things. We're working on LinkedIn as well. But we appreciate you tuning in and showing your support. So yeah, we'll see you next week. We have Mark Plettenberg from Login VSI. Him and I are going to be talking and sparring once again. For those of you that have been with us in previous iterations, him and I have done webinars together and things like that. So he's just a hoot, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. That'll be at a special time on Tuesday. So look for that announcement coming up very, very shortly. So. See you next time, and thanks again for being with us. Cheers.